I wish I could speak more highly of the reality. You know, Christians will take measurements, personal measurements for their own security. Eventually, there's prayer that goes, behind all of it. But unfortunately, I see a period of time that not only in prayer but also in the fellowship interest has been going down, unfortunately. And I speak that of the Honduran country. Obviously, there's parts of the country that will be a little different. Um, and obviously, you cannot deny the reality. Honduras has been rated as one of the most violent places. You know, it has a high standard of deaths a day. The other night, Sunday night, as I got out of here, I was going home, and there was a crowd gathered around the corner, and obviously there was a body laying. I myself saw somebody get shot, some months ago. Uh, the thing is, everybody that gets into a situation like that, it's already involved in some of what you already mentioned. You know, that's so spread. It's spread so much um, geographically. Uh, you could say there's no way to go around Honduras. I mean, unless you go by air or sea, water. You know, we in 2008, somebody came into we were holding our first Christmas rehearsal at church. This is about 6:30 at night, and a man carrying a gun came into the church and wanted our money and purses, cell phones, and he got away. You know, there was nothing we could do. There was children around. He was aiming at children. So nowadays, you wonder what the world is thinking. You know, there's no more fear for God. You know.
Well, that's a very good question. I think a lot of times what evangelical Christians do is they try to hide somehow. And what I've seen in a lot of cities is they try to change their schedules for the reunions they have to try to make them like in the day, not in the night, to avoid that violence. But the other thing we do also is we try to help the children, help the youth in our country with good examples and just giving them advices of how they should live. In Lange, where I am from, we have a ministry where we go to schools, we go to hospitals, we go to the prison, and to a lot of institutes to try and give them the gospel so they'll get to know Jesus.
As you know, if you don't know it, San Pedro is a very violent city, right? Well, I was born there. I believe all my time over there, but I never was afraid about violence. I never was afraid about gangs. You know why? Simple. Just trust in God. I said, sir, I'm your son. You're gonna look for me. Just tell me what I have to do for you, your kingdom, your church, and here I go. I never feel frightened by gangs, violence. Being that way, living that way, Clayton, I never was afraid of gangs or violence. Now that I'm living in this little village, there's not violence at all. Sometimes in a while, a couple of drunks, they fight with machetes, and here's not violence. Violence is only in the 3 or 4 big cities, Honduras, where the drug passes by. But here in these little towns, little villages, no problem. Thanks to God. Church, you have to move in. into these groups of people, into these gangs. A church have a big work to do, and I know I know many churches like mine in San Pedro Sula do this. They are doing a big work, a good work about going with the gospel to these people, these young people in need. What they they very need is love. And if we go with the love of Jesus, they will receive you better.
Pues, no, people here don't do much about it, but in the churches and pulpits, preachers will at least tell the parents to keep their children of going to these gangs or to involving in drugs. He's 100% certain that Christianity, evangelical Christian churches have done a great job here in Honduras. Christians, evangelical Christians came here to Suatepeque in 1896, and since then, now we have 72 churches here in Suatepeque. The Christian churches, they had a lot of impact in the society.
Well, in even so many cases, we have some Christians that has been killed because those kind of problems. And part is that some people will like to hide the drugs in Christians' houses. We have a couple of cases like that. I have some friends that they lost some of their loved ones, and because they got two of the cartels in San Pedro Sula and one in Tocoa in the north coast. They were fighting for the territory because they wants to get drugs too and send it up either to the States and Europe and other places. And they were fighting. And it was a family in between. And these boys, teenagers, really good friend of mine, the whole family, between the shooting, they got shot and they died. They got killed. So Christians suffer a lot also because of that. As Christians, we are afraid to tell others about the Lord because they have the guns and so forth. But one of the things that I challenge the people that I teach, and I have done that, to go to places like that and tell people that are in this kind of business or in gangs or something like that, to tell them about Jesus, because they need the Jesus. It's not that they need Jesus the most. They don't need it more than me. We need it the same. But because it's not just the drugs or Jesus delivering anybody from drugs. It's from sin, any kind of sin. So everybody needs it. But that people, the gospel has a great impact. And when you see somebody that has been involved in drugs, it's really hard to have them testifying or saying something. Many times police come to them and say, tell us where is the rest of the people. And it's very difficult because if they say anything, the other members of the cartel or the drug dealers or gang members, they come and they kill their families or they kill the person. But the gospel really does have a great impact in people's life. And it really changed. And we have seen that. I personally have seen people changing their life.
Well, they deal it with an awful lot of faith. We've offered our friends asylum, as it were, offering them opportunities in the United States if they wanted to leave Honduras and come to the States for shelter. Because a number of them have been marked by the cartels from time to time because they go into places that nobody else goes. They're in those backwoods areas, they're in the jungles, they're back there working in those communities that the cartel thinks that they sort of own because they're trafficking through them. And the cartels really don't want publicity. They don't want people to know where they are, who they are, what they're doing necessarily. But we've offered that asylum, and it's been turned down by everybody because they tell me, and this is individually, but they tell me, no, this is where God has us, and God will protect us if He wants us to do His work here. And we appreciate the fact that you're praying for us, keep praying for us, but we're going to be here doing the work. And so they do their work with a lot of faith. They have faith that God wants them to do what they're doing, and that's why they're doing it. They're close to reality, which we're not. We air condition our homes, we heat our homes, we have enough electricity and enough light bulbs, whether they be CFLs or incandescents, that we can read a book anytime we want to, or watch television or videos or internet or whatever, without any limitation, no matter how dark it is outside or stormy. They don't live like that. Even the people who live in the cities, and the cities are a little more detached than the rural areas, but even those that live in the cities know that electricity can go off, know that the water can go off. They know that death is around the corner. They could be bitten by one of the two-step snakes. They could have a scorpion sting them, and they have a reaction to it. They could get a hold of bad water. They could get a hold of bad food. They understand that, or they could be shot on the bus and shot dead on the bus just because they're sitting in the wrong seat. I mean, they understand that far better than we do. But for the most part, North Americans don't think like Hondurans think. Hondurans think for the day. They don't necessarily think for the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. But most Hondurans are thinking about how they're going to survive the day, where they're going to get the beans and rice and tortillas for the day, how the kids are going to have something to eat at school today, because they're responsible for that. No overarching organization, government or non-government, is in charge of that for them. They have to have their feet on the ground every day. And they're either working or trying to work, trying to find a job, or working in agriculture or something, or begging. But they're doing something to try to find the money to survive. About 4 years ago, I guess it was, maybe longer, we visited the maximum security prison in Comayagua. This is where they had a huge fire and a lot of people died and everything else after we'd been there. And we saw an inmate who was tattooed from his feet to his head, who was one of the MS-13 or one of the other gangs down there. He was the leader. He came to faith in Jesus Christ. He was converted. And in the prisons, and we never know where he is, because they move him from prison to prison because his life is always in danger because of his past connections. Even though he's renounced the gang and he's accepted Christ as his Savior, and he is involved in the quote-unquote church activities within the prison, he is still being hunted by the inmates. He's had so many attacks on his life, and yet he survived them. But he has had a huge impact in every prison he's ever been in, because everybody knows he was the nastiest of the nasty. And then he changed. And they want to know why. And those that really want to know wind up having their lives changed through the contact.